So I want to talk a little bit about the article that was recently in the BBC News yesterday, I think, that parents stress and depression is on the rise during the lockdown. I worry about the wording that we're using here and the way in which we talk about this, where we're trying to destigmatize mental health, but in our quest to do that, I feel like we might actually be heaping stigma on things. Now, I'm not denying that the situation that we find ourselves in may have pushed people into a space where they find themselves struggling with things like depression. But when you go on to read the article and it talks about parents and the symptoms that parents have, difficulty relaxing, being easily upset or agitated, feeling hopeless, lacking interest and pleasure, feeling fearful and worried, being more irritable and overreactive and impatient. None of them things to me feel like a mental health problem based on what we're experiencing at the moment. And when we make them a mental health problem, we then kind of throw these tips and tricks as if, the situation that we found ourselves in has meant that we've caught a mental health problem, and here's the things that you should do to deal with those symptoms. Let me tell you the things the fix, if you want one, to deal with them symptoms that I've just told you. Think about my wife out there homeschooling at the moment with the children. What does she need? She needs human connection for her. She needs human connection for the children. She needs my 3-year-old to be around other 3-year-olds. She needs our 5-year-old to be around other 5-year-olds. She needs activities away from the same room that she's done activities in for the last God knows how many days, right? And she needs to be a human being and get back to the world the way in which the world's supposed to be. Now, that's not possible now. But labeling what she's experiencing and what all parents are experiencing, myself included as well, as a mental health problem, I think is problematic, and it's unrealistic. And actually, all we can really do in this moment is try and be there for one another. My wife, if I went out there halfway through the day and said to my wife, I think you're experiencing a little bit of depression here, she'd say, I tell you what, why don't I go and hide in the office for the day, yeah, and you come out here and spend some time with the kids and tell me if I'm experiencing depression. She's experiencing stress based on having all of her kind of human needs taken away from her. And I'm not here to question whether they should have been taken away. I understand that they need to be in the situation that we find ourselves in. But when we start labeling everything as a mental health problem, I think it becomes problematic. And we start to make people think that the ways that they're feeling are wrong and erratic. All of those things that I listed seem very appropriate to me. They don't seem like a mental health problem. They seem like what happens to human beings when you put them in the situations that we find ourselves in. Equating it to depression, I think, is problematic. And I think we need to be better, because it discounts everybody's stories, by the way. You go, this might be depression. I don't think it is in most cases. I think it's being a human being in the world that we find ourselves in now. Let's listen to people's stories and create space for one another in the moments that we find ourselves in.